Looks like it worked fine this time. Cool. There we go. We should be live. Hello, everyone. I'm going to tweet this out again, and then we'll get going once everybody gets a chance to get in here. And obviously, once again, back with Riddy. So I hope you are all happy to see him again. We're going to try to do once a week at least, right? So say hi, Riddy.
Hello. Good to see you guys. Some of you, at least.
Sometimes.
Yeah, some of you sometimes.
Go.
My mic is low. I hate these people, man.
No. Don't. All right, just putting it again in the Discord. Live now with Lady. Okay, cool. All right, everybody. Happy to see you again. I hope you're all having a good day. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. We're going to talk through all of the manager stuff, of course, the news that's come out, the news that hasn't come out, the news that nobody knows anything. We'll talk about the options. We'll talk about maybe what might be happening. Some of it will be just speculation. Some of it decent. We'll talk through some of the maybe remaining manager options of what may happen. We will talk about center backs, Branthwaite, Euro, all of that. We will talk about Zirkzee with that news coming out today. More of that news coming out today, and we will talk about midfielders. So first, we're gonna play that little intro, and then we will be back to get into it.
Someone cooked here.
Can they hear us during this?
Yeah.
What kind of professionalism is this?
Okay. Cool.
I wouldn't be able to hear it during the.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, I could mute it so that they couldn't hear us, but no, I left it unmuted because it's a pain to click it back and forth. Yeah, we can hear you. Thanks, John. I wonder who John's Clips channel is. That's
I wonder who John is.
I don't know what John.
All right, let's get into it.
Cool. Yep.
Man, what a weird week.
It has
all of my hopes and dreams have been crushed. I've had to resurrect my copium from like the bottom of the barrel. It's been miserable.
Yeah, I mean, last week obviously everybody expected, all right, it's gonna get done. It's going to get done last week. That's going to be it. Everything's going to be wrapped up. There's no way it can go beyond this. We had our short list, right? We had these manager targets. We had, what was it? We had McKenna obviously had been scratched off. And we were sitting there looking at it, going over these videos and saying, okay, and to be clear, many times in the video with Riddy and on my own videos, I made it clear. I have not gotten a specific update on any of this outside of the fact that INOES were still talking to managers, which is 100% true. And so like who's the favorite, who isn't, all of that, all my guesses. These are all guesses, and I made that pretty dang clear.
It was all opinion.
Yeah, it's all opinion, and I think it's important because I don't know. I do not know, and obviously nobody does at this point in time know who where this is going to end at this point in time. I've not heard anything to change the original plan of interview managers and go forward. But obviously last week, and then we found out that Thomas Tuchel was interviewed. I think there was others interviewed, and then Thomas Tuchel, as soon as that news came out, everybody's like excited. It's going to be Thomas Tuchel. He's explaining his plans. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. And then Fabrizio comes and shuts it all down not 2 minutes later, literally within 2 hours, saying that he's not going to have the job. And then the articles start getting corrected. And it's like, did Tuchel turn down the job or did United turn him down? I'd like to see what your all opinions on that. For me, I'm pretty sure that United turned him down. They had concerns with Thomas Tuchel.
They did turn him down. I think they turned
I'm
him down for
pretty
the reason
sure.
that, yeah, it was for the reason that we said we were going to turn him down the whole time. It's that he didn't want that head coaching role,
Yeah.
which is the reason why Eric's not going to work out, hopefully. And it's it's probably the reason why Poch didn't work out. These people want more control than I think we're willing to give them. And I think that it's fair. I think the reason why United has struggled for continuity in the past is because we've been listening to manager targets too significantly. The most successful clubs in the world have targets that fit the club, not the manager. And so if something bad happens with the manager, the next manager still works with those players. So it's the right direction. It's just not, I think, what Tuchel wanted, Poch wanted. So yeah, I mean, it didn't work out. It's for the reasons that I think we said that it wasn't going to, and it's kind of just that.
Yeah, and you know what I thought was really funny is there was all this detail about like integrating Jadon Sancho in, and at the same time as that came out, Simon Stone, put out, obviously very connected to the club, Sancho's gone, like no matter what, so that's obviously like was a sticking point of like maybe that's not the right idea, but then some suggestions about Rudiger, things like that. I think it's the concern with Thomas Tuchel has always been he's not necessarily that head coach type that they want. He hasn't lasted a long time at the last few jobs. He tends to butt heads.
Ownership.
Yeah, he butts heads with ownerships and all of that, and it is what it is. I mean, there was those doubts all along, on this, right? There was these doubts all along on him and what it would mean and how it would work, and it seems like that came to a head. And like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. He had heavy briefings from Tuchel's side about thinks he's got the job, wants the job, is ready to return, is ready to get into it, meets with Sir Jim and turns it down. That doesn't really make any sense to me. That doesn't really make sense to me. I don't quite buy that. So, then you have Pochettino, and I was pretty positive they'd held some talks with Pochettino recently. And we're thinking, all right, well, Pochettino makes sense. He wants the job. He probably do whatever it takes to get it. And then, obviously that was played down yesterday, was it? Over the weekend, and then again yesterday, Sunday and Monday, I think. He was
a little critical about him not most of the not happening, and then they just completely Dunker.
Yep.
Someone really
right, Dunker and Hurst yesterday, right? So it's interesting because then you have why not him? I don't know. It's interesting. One of the things originally about Pochettino that had come out, whether true or not, I don't know, when he interviewed a couple years ago, was that he had been talking a lot about transfers, right? Talking a lot about transfers and, spending money and all of that. And one of the situations is that, at present point in time, if you read kind of the briefs, it's about getting the most out of the current club because the profit and sustainability rules are really tight. And one of the things that they feel that has been a big failure of managers has been the inability to get the most out of players and the constant need to get huge signings that don't work out instead of having a cohesive strategy. So I think that as well, they don't want the manager to be sitting there just thinking about transfers. Who can I buy? Who can I buy? Who can I buy? But thinking about how to get the most out of the people that you've got and will provide the players. That is definitely, their kind of priority and the way that they view the job in general. So, I think that, so pretty much left with that. The only other person that was on the original shortlist from a few weeks ago is Thomas Frank. That's the only person. There was a 4-man shortlist. Now they've recently mentioned Roberto De Zerbi again, but he was the only one on that 4-man shortlist of Tuchel, McKenna, Poch, and Thomas Frank. He's the only one that's left. There was an article from Mike McGrath at the Telegraph before all of this happened, saying that he was a strong candidate and outlining things, talking about the review that would happen at the end of the season. it's interesting. There's decent, yeah, I mean, it seems like there's some decent evidence there, and we'll kind of talk him through. But one of the things is, I think there's two ways to look at the way that this manager thing has gone, because people and media and myself included, like in the last 2 weeks, have not gotten anything about what the specifics, aside from the fact that they're talking to people, right? And one could look at it and say that this is chaotic and that it's a mess. And that's what a lot of people seem to be going with, that it's a mess, that they don't know what they're doing, that there's no plan. But alternatively, if you block out the noise and try not to get confused by it, it looks like they made initial contacts with a lot of managers. Then they progressed to interviewing and talking to managers and eliminating people from their lists, which we've now seen in quick succession with Tuchel and Pochettino. And then
technically Southgate, which was always, I think, up to me.
And people have played down Southgate like David Ornstein. So there's a lot of people who've played it down. I get it. There's a lot of smart people who have heard Southgate. I mean, there just are. But there's also a lot of really good people that have heard nothing about Southgate and said there's nothing in it at the moment, and he's not likely to be high up at the list, like David Ornstein. And, you know, I've heard it from both sides from smart people. So if you look at it on that vein, they're narrowing it down, and it may just simply be that they're narrowing it down to their final target, and then they have to proceed with negotiations. And you know, that they're just not briefing every step of the way. But if you kind of look at it from the outside, to me, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, there's a couple things on that, but I think we've had some, I'm going to say in a nice way, lively debates about how INEOS is handling this.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I think it's frustrating from a fan's perspective, because we all expect it to be done quickly and we want it to be done quickly. But, you know, I think in reality, there's just been no need. And like I said, we debated this pretty heavily. There's really just no need for it to be done quickly. You know, the transfer window opens in 2 days. There's no games that need to be played for an interim. Like, it's just that, yeah, we can debate as much as we want, but it looks like they are doing their due diligence. And if you look and go in, ruling out Tuchel, ruling out Poch, ruling out Southgate, which I guess was ruled out, like they are doing it right. And the leaks are the news is not coming from INEOS. Like, that's the thing that's, I think, frustrating for us as fans right now, is that we're so used to leak from the United side so often that it feels like INEOS aren't doing anything because we're not hearing anything about it.
Yeah.
When in reality, INEOS have very specifically decided to change how they're doing things so we don't leak. So the only time we're going to hear something is from the side of, I guess, the manager candidate. But we can have a conversation about Thomas Frank. I know I said I don't know a lot. I did. We'll call it, you know, a cram session of research prior. And from what I heard, when I heard him talk, when I read what he liked, I mean, he seems like a really interesting manager. And I read what a lot of fans had to say about him. And it seems like he's very highly regarded, and that he's a very tactical manager, that he approaches each game differently. You know, I watched his masterclass video on his setup for Arsenal, and he spoke very, very, you know, it looks like he targets the weaknesses of the opposition team. And yeah, he's a tactical manager. He's apparently a really good man manager. His players respect him a lot. He's very human with them. There was a story about one of the players' fathers dying, and you know what Thomas Frank said to him and how he approached it. So it's a tough one, because obviously he manages Brentford. And so you're like, well, why is a manager from Brentford coming to United? But you also have to remember that, like, the man has kept Brentford up. And I thought he's done, you know, he's an interesting guy. It looks like he's a really good tactical manager, and Ashworth knows him. And yeah, I mean, look, is it what we all expected? No, but I'm going to say something that is going to be, you're not going to like, but if a decision goes against what 90% of the fans want on Twitter and in general, I'm 100% for that. Because like the reason why we're in this in the first place is because United listened to the fans, and INEOS doesn't give a shit about that. Excuse my French. INEOS doesn't care at all. Like, if they're gonna go against what the fans want, I'm 100% for that, and let's just do it. Like maybe it might blow up in their face, or it might be one of the craziest decisions they've ever made, and it works out really well. Like who knows? But I don't think it's necessarily a bad decision. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of different. Obviously, you could debate it forever. Thomas Frank, what he does fit is the way that they want him to
Yes.
run the club. He does fit as a coach, regardless of whether he's the right guy, whether he's good enough or not. You know, he does fit. One of the things that you know, based on this article from way back on the Telegraph about him, you know, was one of the things that they've done there really well at Brentford is in terms of their data and analytics approach, which is obviously something that INEOS are trying to add to the club and have things run off specifically. He's played different ways in his career. He played more possession based before getting promoted to the Premier League. So you know, it remains to be seen what happens with this, and whether he's a really good candidate, whether it works or not. You know, Mikel Arteta had it managed before. Pep Guardiola's first job in a first team was Barcelona. You know, people wanted McKenna. Frank got Brentford promoted too. You know, obviously there's differences in these accomplishments, but he was on the short list. Yeah, he was on the short list for Liverpool as well. You know, it's not like they didn't look at him. He was, and I think it's a pretty similar appointment to something like Arne Slot at Liverpool. There's a lot of stuff behind us if they were to go with that. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know if it would work. I have doubts about it, you know, from different perspectives. But what I do know is that I ideally would like them to get somebody who fits, and to, you know, we've tried big name managers with Jose Mourinho. We've tried big name managers with Louis van Gaal. We've tried this before. We've tried a lot of things, and what we haven't really done is just get, I mean, we're going with the data approach. We're going with what people do. And you know, it's again, you look at the similarities with things like Arsenal. You know, Arteta wasn't qualified for it on the basis of how people would think. It just, nobody really knows. And, you know, Xabi Alonso came practically out of nowhere to be incredibly successful very quickly. Not out of nowhere, obviously, but, you know, his rise was very fast, and sometimes it just takes getting that chance. So we'll see. Roberto De Zerbi obviously also linked as well. Honestly, I have more doubts about De Zerbi than Thomas Frank.
Yeah, the end of that season was rough, and apparently it was not like amicable, and there was a lot of bad blood, and you know, that's what happened. Like the thing that I want, and I know people have talked about De Zerbi improving players. I really just want a manager that can improve our players. Like we shouldn't need to buy world-class players. Players can be coached. And I think okay, you can look at Dalla, who's definitely improved under Ten Hag, but I think a lot of our players, people would say they're not good enough, but in reality, like you have to look at potential, and then you have to say the manager, the coach should be able to make players play up to that potential. Like Sancho was not coached correctly to play up to that potential, right? So, you know, Højlund maybe isn't being played in a position that actually suits his best styles. So I think I really just want a manager who can manage really well, is tactical, and can improve our players. I don't need a big name. You know, I want someone who can really do well at this club, and who, I think we're so focused on, like, did he manage Real Madrid? Did he do this, do that? Like, let's get someone who fits our bill, has shown potential, is well respected in the industry, and can treat our players and improve our players the way we need them to. So.
Yeah, I would agree. And the thing that I want to say about, you know, Ten Hag in terms of the managers themselves, which I've maintained many times, is that it's not about, you know, people constantly look at managers and try to rank them. I mean, it's the easiest thing to do. People do it with players as well. But fit, environment, and how it all works is more important. And the biggest problem that we've had with Ten Hag at United at this point in time, I've said this for a long time, that it wasn't really about results. It's been about how that they fit within the structure, how they work with players, how they feel about their communication, how they feel. Let me give you an example of just something this morning that people aren't going to want to believe. Okay, you had two briefs come out this morning, two different articles. One from Jason Bird at the Telegraph, and one from Jamie Jackson. And one is Eric Ten Hag's people saying, we don't think we can get, my plans, our summer plans are bad and the transfers are not going to work. And I'm concerned about this and I'm concerned about that. Why is he talking to people about that? Why is anybody around Ten Hag talking to press about that? And they didn't make it up. That is coming from his people. Why are they doing that? When you look at the alternative side of it, the way that INEOS want to approach things is, we're taking care of recruitment. We're taking care of transfers. You'll have your input. They're not worried about summer plans being ruined. Look at the news. Look at the news that's come out around it. And we'll talk about the transfers in a minute. They're not stopping on their transfer. They're not stopping on their transfer business. They're working. They're talking to Branthwaite people. They're identifying targets. You get these reports from good people on Zirkzee today that we'll talk about. They're meeting with, Georgia Mendes and these types of people to talk about transfers. They're not stopping. There's work happening. Steve Brown, the head of recruitment at the moment, Hargreaves, the negotiation person, it's been in articles and things. They're working on transfers. They had talks with Tosin, but decided to move on. Their business is not being held up, but the way that they view the job is different. And that's always been the biggest challenge with Ten Hag, is whether he fits within that. And so sometimes it's not about being better or worse, but whether he does fit. And that's more to do with it, overall. When you get new ownership in, they see things a certain way and they want to manage it a certain way. And that's always been the option. And people get so worked up about it. It's not that's why they're doing this review. That's why they're looking at it this way. David Ornstein in the original piece about the review, I'm going to find it real quickly to just tell you. Okay.
I wanted to say something that, like, the thing that you guys have to remember is that there is a process for signing a transfer, right? So you can start, first of all, window's not even open, so sure. But, like, you start initial talks and you say, hey, do you want to come to Manchester United? And they're like, yeah, obviously, it's Manchester United. Like, we like the project. We think the ownership is moving in a good direction, which is, people have said, especially of our players now, Bruno, everyone, Lissandro, they feel like INEOS is moving things in the right direction. They like what they've been saying, which is different from the Glazers. And then they say, okay, well, let's start talking about fees, your personal terms, etc. And then if they're choosing between two clubs, they're going to say, well, who's the manager we're playing for? We're not at that point yet, right? So while I do agree that you are most likely going to need to know who the manager is before you can sign any players, there are steps before that which we can take while we're dealing with the manager situation. Yeah. So we can definitely still make progress, right? But most likely, we are going to need to know who the manager is prior, but that doesn't mean we can't take those initial steps. There are a lot of steps before the signing.
Yeah. Zay asked, are you against keeping Ten Hag? I'd support what decision that they make, but given the information that I have, I feel like it would be a mistake because it's been made pretty clear that he doesn't match what they want. And when people say to fix the structure, when people say to fix the environment, when people say to do all that, well, the manager's a part of that too. They have to fit it. They don't probably want a manager with a veto on transfers. They don't want a manager with that much influence. They want a different structure, right or wrong. They want something different. If they're going to actually be successful, they have to be able to do things the way that they want to do it and that they see as best rather than compromising. And I don't want new owners to come in and immediately start compromising. So, they don't want that. Pep Guardiola doesn't have a veto. Jurgen Klopp doesn't have a veto. Like, these are people don't. Carlo Ancelotti doesn't have a veto. it's unusual the amount of influence and power that he gets, and that's been acknowledged by a lot of people. What David Ornstein wrote was, about the review is, accordingly, United will start looking next week at what areas need to improve to increase performance on the pitch, including Ten Hag's willingness to evolve, and then decide on the best course of action. Because that's a big part of it. That's what he said. That is what was wanted, is that that have somebody who changes, who can fit into the modern structure rather than the whole old school aspect of management. That doesn't mean that a manager won't have a voice. No, they do not. There's good Athletic articles talking about how they don't have vetoes in their contracts. Managers have a voice at every one of these clubs, and they always should. But there's a difference between that and the amount of influence that one can have. There's definitely levels and things in between that. But I've gone over that all before. That is what changes. That is what they're looking for. That is what they want. They want someone who fits it. And whether he does, and if he does or he doesn't. Yeah, go ahead.
I also think it's a mistake. It's a mistake if you look at, well, like you said, James, the top clubs in the world don't work like that. Yeah. But like no other sport works like that. Like you can't. The thing about specializing is that, like, how are you expecting a manager to also do the work of all of our scouts, do the work of all of our data analytics teams to correctly identify good players, right? Like if you look at what Ten Hag has done, Ten Hag is not. The reason why we don't want to do this is because Ten Hag is not acting like a recruiting department. What Ten Hag is doing is he's acting the player he wants or players that he's played with. So Ten Hag's not, or played against. Ten Hag is not actively finding players that's going to fit his style. He has chosen players that he's played with and then he's played for him or against him. And he says, yeah, I could work with that guy. And look what's happened. Look what has happened.
And
we have 100 of a useless fidget spinner.
Yeah, and the thing is that whether it's his fault or not, because we've never set up the structure, isn't really the point. You can't say we've never had that structure and then say they're wrong for doing it. Now, that's the point. They need to do it. They need to put it in place. They need to fix it. They need to get it right. And so if Ten Hag is willing to fit into that, then and I said that, I think in November, December, I tweeted something and I said, look, my biggest piece of advice that I'd give to Erik Ten Hag is accept the job that's actually on offer, because it's not the same job that was on offer before. United have not really evolved.
It would sort of be a demotion. And like, if you look, most people who get demoted do not stay. Right. So if it in fact is going to be a demotion, then I do imagine that he would say, I don't want this. And he would go to a most likely smaller club, maybe an Italian team, a German team that would give him more power. But like, you get demoted, you don't stay. And so if he wants to be in that same role, I don't imagine he would even want to stay, which is why I could see an amicable split.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's just it's just the way of the future. The Liverpool essentially, with Klopp leaving, redid their entire structure to settle on this head coach way. Chelsea have been a bit of chaos, but they've also restructured to head to this head coach way. Pep Guardiola has talked about taking less and less influence over the years, and they've been more successful because of it. Real Madrid take care of pretty much everything, obviously. It's just, to me, it's just sort of a kind of a funny, antiquated thing that we've never evolved on, but this is the way it's going in the future. Whether it works or not, we'll see. That's up to them to figure it out, and that's where I think the judgment can be made. But this is the facts. That is what they want. That is the direction they're going, and that is the reality. Whether one likes it or not, whether one agrees with it or not, whether one thinks it's a good idea or a bad idea, that's totally fine. Everybody can have their own opinions on any of that. And you may be right. They may screw it up. It may not work. It doesn't matter. I'm saying that is the way they want to go. That is the reality. And that's why they're looking at other people, because they want someone to fit into that. Obviously there are doubts over whether Ten Hag was the best fit into that. That's the issue in terms of, what that leaves options wise. Yes, Thomas Frank fits that. Whether he's the best person, whether it'll work, that's a totally different question. I have no idea. He fits that.
willing to give
Yeah.
I'm willing to give it a chance
Yeah.
because it's the first major decision under our new structure, and it's people that have been very successful in the world of football. And so and I got to be honest, like they probably know more than me. They definitely know more than me. What am I talking about? It's the exact same conversation we had with the whole, that Mark Goldbridge clip. Like, I don't know as much as them. So I'm going to go ahead and be like, okay, let the guys that are successful in the field make these decisions. They probably know better than me. And we'll see what happens. If it turns out to be the wrong decision, we can go back in time and be like, hey, look at that. But let's just give them a chance.
Yeah.
Right? Like, do I necessarily agree with it? No, I obviously wanted Poch. Like, I'll just go ahead and say it. I obviously wanted Poch. Also, INEOS have not failed in every sporting venture. What are you talking about? Their racing team, both of their racing teams are like the top. Like, what do you mean? And Nice is better. Anyway, we don't have to get into that. I think maybe, do you want to?
Yeah, I got to answer a couple of donations here. Parth asks, will all decisions be made after 1st of July? No, I don't think so, but money might be part of the factor. Halftime Oranges, wonder if Frank working under the data-driven Moneyball recruitment system at Brentford has anything to do with the interest from INEOS. Well, it's a positive because, yes, in some respect, there's a necessity at United to spend better and to spend more intelligently. I don't know why people sometimes indicate like Moneyball is a bad thing. There's levels to it. Liverpool and City built their teams up without spending on huge players the way that we did in many instances. They would get one here to kind of finish it off like Virgil van Dijk, but the rest of them, a lot of Moneyball purchases in there and players that people wouldn't necessarily be that interested in otherwise and that people would sneer at and all of that. And, there's different levels to all of this. And, and so I think that, yeah, that's a draw because whoever is the manager, they're going to have to work within that. Whoever is the manager, they're going to have to work within a more data-led approach. And United were going that way anyway, with the enhancements to the data department and all of that. So anybody that they bring in as manager or with be it Ten Hag is going to have to fit that. Zay asks, and then I'll move on to the next thing. Thank you for answering. Who would be your choice be, and why aren't we looking at options and not just options who are without a job? Can't other options be looked at like Nagelsmann? Yes. Great question. If I had any choice, obviously if we had a choice, we'd be bringing someone in like Xabi Alonso or Nagelsmann. I'd bring them in. Now they spoke to and talked to people like Nagelsmann and made initial inquiries, but he wasn't interested in it. He wasn't interested in the role that's on offer. It is what it is. These things, there's people who fit. Liverpool didn't hire Nagelsmann either. They hired Arne Slot from the Dutch league. They didn't hire Xabi Alonso. They didn't hire Ancelotti, and that's a successful club with best-in-class people who are running and managing the club. They wanted a head coach. They even called him a head coach. So it's not that crazy. They didn't hire Thomas Tuchel. They didn't hire Pochettino. It's like people have a very strange opinion on it. You can look at successful clubs are going this route, and Bayern hired Vincent Kompany, for God's sakes. Like can we get a grip here? These are big clubs, and everybody's sitting there wanting to sneer at the decisions that they're making. Yes, they were interested in Thomas Frank. You have no idea what you're talking about. Thomas Frank made Liverpool's shortlist. They did because he fits the data and the analysis and all of that. So, again, you got to get your information correct. You can go read all about it if you'd like that he made it on there. And Vincent Kompany just got relegated and he got hired by Bayern. It's a way of the future. It's about fit. It's about fit. They hire people who fit what they want. And that is the way that things are going forward today. And if whoever fits INEOS best that they can get is who they will bring in. And so we will see. And then we'll judge based on how it works out, because we've tried to do so many different things, and we don't know. It hasn't worked out, but if we're going to let them fix the structure, then that's a part of it. And so I support that, because we've had bad owners for ages, and we've made mistakes over and over.
The thing you guys have to realize, again, the thing you guys have to realize is that at the end of the day, the people who will be making the footballing decisions are not going to be Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sir David Brailsford. I can't even say his name well.
Yeah.
I don't know why. They're not going to be making the football decisions. You guys are they have appointed Omar Berardi, soon Dan Ashworth, soon Dan Ashworth when this arbitration is done, and David Wilcox.
Jason.
These are people that have worked in the field their whole lives. They will be, am I wrong again? Whatever. They will be, I'm so bad with names. They will be making the decisions, right? Forget me messing up their names. You know who I'm talking about. They'll be making the footballing decisions, not INEOS. So when you're like INEOS, whatever, Omar, Wilcox, Dan, they will be making the footballing decisions. And maybe one day I'll get their name right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not today. Yeah. So we're gonna move on from that, and
let's move on. Look, this is information. I don't know how it's gonna work out. My pick, somebody asked. My pick would definitely have not been Thomas Frank in the beginning. Like I said, I would have liked Javi Alonso or a Nagelsmann or somebody like that. But and of the short lists, I would have liked on that short list. I definitely would have gone with McKenna or Pochettino myself, and Frank would have been last on it for me too. But it is what it is. This isn't my opinion. It's information.
I think the thing that you also have to look at is not what. This is the last thing I'll say about this, because I really think we should move on. The thing you want to look at is not what evidence INEOS has in winning. It's, you need to look at what evidence the people they've put in charge have of winning things. So you need to look at what has Omar done with City. And if you look at all the accounts, he's been really important, not only for the City Football Group, but also for Manchester City as a football team. You look at what Dan Ashworth has done, and he's been incredibly important in England's, re-rise to glory. Hopefully that'll actually turn into something. But Brighton becoming the team that they were, and then Newcastle getting UC, so he's been good. And then, Wilcox obviously was good in all the roles he did. I know a little bit less about him. So, let's not talk about what INEOS has done, and let's talk about what the people they put in charge has done. Sure. And then we can have that conversation. But let's move on to not this stupid thing.
Those are all the realities of it, whether people like it or not. And we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see where it ends up and how it works out. I do think we will, get some finality on this pretty soon, though. I really do, because a lot of the signs are looking like we're coming to the end. They are meeting the managers. Wilcox and Barada met McKenna. That was one of the reports. I think you guys gotta.
I would never bring in Southgate. You guys are just putting words in my mouth. I hate Gareth Southgate. I hate everything that Gareth Southgate stands for. I despise the man as much as I hate Greg Berhalter. I hate all of them. If Southgate joins our club, I'm putting blinders on every match. I hate that guy.
Yeah, there'll be major things I disagree with, but yeah, we'll move on from it now. Moving on to center backs. For a little bit of information. Just to answer that final question, the reason that the owner of a club would be meeting a manager is because they all do. And it would be as a part of the interviewing process. You still have to get along with and like the people that you work with. That's just a reality. I'm not getting angry with anybody in these things, but Brady probably is. But I don't really, none of it makes me angry. What I'm saying is these are facts. This is their approach. This is their information. This is what they want. So, you can take it out on me, and that's okay too, but it is what they want. You can disagree with it. We can't do anything about it. Yeah. They're going to do what they want. Let's talk about center backs. Let's move on to it. One piece of information that I do have that I would like to share on this is just that United are continuing to move forward on the Branthwaite side of things. There's definitely a willingness from him to join. They absolutely want him. They're still into it. They still want it to occur. And the basic strategy has always been kind of let Everton sweat a little bit. They're not going to pay a bunch of money for it, but they're sitting there. They're ready. They're in touch with the people they need to be in touch with to get this done. They're very active. This is where I say I know for a fact they're not sitting and waiting on transfers. Gerard Branthwaite is not sitting there saying, well, let me wait for the manager to decide if I'd like to make the move to Manchester United. It's not the case. That's not how it's been. They've been chasing him for a long time. So, he, in this situation, we will see, but it's moving, and it is there. It's all about Everton coming down on that price. If they come down on that price, then it's one that can happen. Alternatively, they have good targets otherwise. The Academy Scoop guy, I talked about this last week. The Academy Scoop guy put a thing out about, Gestifut and Georgia Mendes and all of that. And, he represents Euro, and we've had contacts with Todibo. And yes, the interest in Euro is absolutely true, as I've talked about. Weird behavior, some of you. Some of you have really weird behaviors. The interest in Euro is absolutely true. It is absolutely accurate. They're interested in him. If Madrid do not get him, then it's something United would really look at. They really do want. Don't start with me, Dev. They really do want. They really do want a right-sided center back and all of that as well. Euro's looked at as like a young, very exceptional talent, and it's one that if they can get something done for him, they absolutely would, because of that reason. They also, again, really like Branthwaite, and in a perfect world, they could get both, but I'm not sure we have the money for it. But these things are all working in tandem, and then they have Todibo, which is a pretty simple deal to do. That is more realistic. If Branthwaite doesn't come down, if that price doesn't come down, then perhaps they'll get Todibo. If Euro is possible, then they'll move for him as well. But they're in contact with all these people, and that's why I say it's kind of funny. These things aren't waiting for the manager to get moving. Obviously, they need to settle that, but and probably in finalizing them and everything. But when talking about young players, you come into a club, you might play for multiple managers, and you want that kind of step up. So there's good things happening there. I still expect we'll get at least one, if not two, of those center backs. But
good options too.
Yeah, really good options. I'd really be happy with any of them.
Yeah.
Tall
dude.
I was just reading a thing about Branthwaite because people think it's funny. I think he's left-footed. A lot of people think he's left-footed. There's this interview with an old coach of his that says he's not actually left-footed. He's just so good with both feet that people think he's left-footed. And since he's been shifted to the left, he can play on both sides, which is awesome. That's cool. I would like to, so I think, obviously with Lisandro Martinez being a key player, any one of these will work, and fit into this. If it's Todibo, if it's Euro, if it's Branthwaite, they can all fit next to Lisandro. But you could probably also partner them up, if Lisandro's not playing with a Maguire or somebody like that. So I think it's really, that's good. That's moving. Obviously, we want to see if they get these deals done. But they are in regular progression with these targets. Lisandro should be sold. That is a take and a half.
Who is what are you talking about?
All right.
We have one good center back, and it's Lisandro Martinez. What do you mean? Let's sell our best center back. Yeah, that's a great idea.
I'd like to know why, but yeah. Well, and maybe Branthwaite is left-footed. It's funny. Maybe he said it himself, but I think it is funny that his former coach thinks he isn't, and that's how two-footed he is. That's good. I mean, that's good stuff. Those are the technical flexibilities that you like the technical abilities that allow you to be tactically flexible that you like to have. I think he could fit with anybody. So that's cool. All right. Moving on from center backs, because that is moving. I'm pretty encouraged by that. That's the first priority. The second priority is definitely in the forward line. Now, Joshua Zirkzee, who we've talked about in the past, what did I say earlier? Did I retweet it today or not? I don't remember. The issue with him has never been our interest, and I know that United like him, but the issue is about what he wants to do and where he wants to go and what his role might be. United are definitely interested, and I think very interested, because when you look at the price, he's a really, really good striker that could come in at a really good price, and it's a great opportunity. They need to convince him that there's going to be a significant role for him if we're going to get him. They would need to convince him because he is absolutely wanted. At the same time, it doesn't help his agent apparently wants 15 million on top of the release clause, which kind of makes it crazy. Milan looks more likely because he would have the out and out starting job there. He wants to stay in Italy. What's up?
Didn't they pass new player agent rules about compensation? How could he even get the 15 million?
Those things have all kind of gone crazy, for sure. Those things have all gone crazy. I don't even know where that rule is anymore.
This is one of those situations where we can't promise him a role unless we have the manager. So this is one that would get held up, but we still do have some time.
Yeah, I can see that, but I mean, in general, it's complicated because obviously there's a lot of games to play, but I mean, we need a winger too if we're moving on. Obviously, which what's that?
I don't really understand. I thought the goal, this is one of those situations where we have Martial. Let's buy Lukaku. Martial, we bought Højlund last year for a good fee, young striker. I know he didn't have. I thought he had, and people have different opinions on this. I thought he had a good season. I think he has the potential to be a really good player with the right coaching. Why would we then go ahead and buy another person of the same ilk when I thought the reports were saying, let's get a experienced striker to help Højlund improve, unless we're planning on playing both of, a 4-4-2 with both of them
right
up top.
Well, I think that obviously one of the pluses with Zirkzee as an option is he is different to Højlund in his skill set. He's much better, I think, in the build up, the hold up play, these types of things. I think he is. I think Højlund is more of a channel runner, and Zirkzee's a bit different. I know what you're saying in terms of a young kind of developing 9, and that they're similar. And I get that, and because it's like, well, how are you going to play? Are you going to change? Yeah, he's more like Martial. That's correct. Are you going to change how you play based on who's on a pitch each time, or I don't know.
It would be great to be able to convince top players to play like City does. They have a lot of depth, and players don't always start. Players play different ways, and so if we can say okay, we have an Alvarez and we have a Haaland, you both will get game time regardless. That would be great. I get it. Mm-hmm. But are we going to be able to properly develop both of them?
Yeah. So maybe, and I think they want to. I think they want to. United want to. I think Wilcox wants that. It's just about convincing him. It's about convincing him that there's enough. So, if they want him, cool. He's a really good player, brings something different. Can they convince him? I don't know. And then, you add to that, cool. They bring in that backup striker, or rotation striker. We need to move on Sancho. We need to move on Greenwood in order to bring in someone like Olise. Because if you had, Olise, Garnacho, Rashford, Zirkzee, and Højlund as 5 options, sure. I'm just saying as 5 proven who've played a lot of seasons, who've got the experience now, then you actually have the level of, I guess, depth that you see at a City and a Liverpool. We've never had that. Even Chelsea now. I mean, Chelsea have a lot of forwards, and they keep adding more. It's kind of crazy, but they do.
Why would Olise go there? I mean, he's the 8th, 9th, 10th winger. Do you believe look, someone I saw say earlier, give me sport confirmed. Who is give me sport? What are you doing? Why do you believe these people?
There was actually something this morning that said that Olise has I can't remember who it was, but it was sort of hidden in one of the articles that didn't get a lot of notice, that said on Olise, it's the Athletics thing from yesterday with Ornstein and such. It was very, very good one. It said that on the Olise thing, clubs are being directed, rather than talking to him personally, to talk to Palace and figure out a deal there. So I don't believe the stuff about agreed personal terms or anything like that, because it's literally said in there, go talk to Palace. That club people are being told go talk to Palace rather than talk to him. There's complications in the release clause, things like that. But I think he wants to see if somebody will agree and figure out a deal and then decide, rather than the other way around. And fair enough. But I thought that was interesting. I don't think it's as, I don't think it's, yeah.
I quickly want to say that this epidemic of dipshit Twitter accounts putting exclusive colon before their news, and then everyone sucking them off because they think that they have accurate news. You can't just put, like, I could put exclusive and say the weirdest thing, and everyone be like, oh my God, look at his sources. Like, why does everyone think that just like this? It's just driving me crazy. This exclusive epidemic is driving me off a wall.
I kind of feel bad about it because to some degree, I'm not saying this is necessarily the case, but to some degree, we legitimized ITKs or unknown journalists in a bit of a way. Like, we knocked down a lot of people who were not accurate, but as we got a little bit more legitimate, it became more normal. It's become a lot more normal, but a lot of them are, you got to be really, really wary. You know, you got to be really, really wary of things on there. You know, in terms of past, in terms of history, in terms of, and the thing that I've always said that makes it different is I don't sit there regularly and say that journalists are all wrong, that all these good top journalists are wrong. I regularly refer to people who are, I regularly defer to people who I think are intelligent and say, well, if they're saying this, then I'm going to take that into account with the things I'm hearing. But just saying, you know, anyway, you could just keep being careful with with what you watch, and myself included. I always recommend a high level of skepticism on things, for sure. So, you know, that's, I think that ideally we get all of those, but we still need to move Sancho. Now let's talk about Sancho really quick, because there's a little bit of information on here as well. There's been more stuff coming out about, you know, Juventus and such, still Juventus being interested in him. You know, Dortmund don't want to pay that fee, but they're absolutely still interested in him. There are other clubs as well in Germany, including potentially Leipzig, that might be interested in him. And I think there's options, and it's pretty clear that he wants to move on and that United want to move him on, but that needs to be sorted. Mason Greenwood as well. Obviously, we see there's basically no chance of these players staying at the club. But obviously the issues are fees. I think United would accept a loan plus obligation for either players. Okay. I think that they would, and maybe it doesn't give them money now, but it will in the future. And after July 1st, our finances are, in terms of PSR, are a lot different. So I don't think it's so urgent we get the money now. You know, if the obligation comes into effect next summer, that's not a big deal. You know, if we're not selling them before July 1st, then it doesn't make that much of a difference to us as far as I understand our finances. So they would accept something like that, especially with wages covered. And that may be the only way that it gets done. An obligation with let's say a 5 or 10 million loan fee plus 20 million next summer, that might be the way to get 30 million rather than a 30 million sale now from some of these clubs. That might be possible. Poor Rudy getting abused, not used to it.
This is brutal. A cook session, man. What did I do?
Don't take it personally.
I'm talking too much sense, and it's pissing people off.
Yeah.
Sorry, you can't handle it.
Yeah.
What is a chocolate? It doesn't make any sense. What does that mean?
So,
is that a phrase?
I imagine it has something to do with that it melts. Anyway.
There melts.
Let's move on.
You let anyone in these live streams, James. You let anyone in here, man.
Yeah. Let's move. Oh, sorry. Let me go back to that really quick. I'm gonna keep this thing up here because you're right. We've talked before about Jonathan David, and we've talked before about Ivan Toney. Jonathan David is one that they've had interest in the past. Some of it was tied to Ten Hag too. I don't think they're super high on Jonathan David at this point in time, but he has been one they've looked at as an option. He'd be kind of affordable. I don't think he's very good. I don't think, I mean, he'd be near the same price as Zirkzee, so not even close to as good. Big red flags have been there for years with Jonathan David. So I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think my information is that they're pretty cool on him, so I don't think that they're gonna bring in Jonathan David. Ivan Toney, obviously another interesting one in a similar vein of player to maybe Zirkzee, and you can time them out, really. You can do whatever you want, right? Can you? I think you're a moderator on here. No, you're good. I got it. Anyway, it's fine.
No, you I don't care if they say mean things.
Well,
it's good.
You're my guest. You're my guest, so I'll time them out if I want to.
I guess. Yes, James.
Yeah, Ivan Toney. Ivan Toney is someone that they're interested in having. He'd also be pretty expensive as well. And certainly, I think you can rule out getting on the other forward if you're spending, 60 million plus for someone like Ivan Toney. So yeah, I don't think that is realistic. I mean, maybe it is though, if we get the sales out and they decide to do that, but again, what role would he play? How does he fit? Is there enough minutes for him? But it is interesting, that, again, Ivan Toney, Zirkzee, bit different to Rasmus Højlund, different profiles. And, who knows, maybe we want to play. At the end of the season, we played basically with Bruno as a false nine, as almost like in dropping in a bit more, much more similar to how a Toney or somebody might play. Not exactly, of course, but much more similar. So very interesting, if we decide to go a different way, Rasmus Højlund, obviously a good player that'll continue developing, but maybe he's not their ideal. I'm not sure. I am not sure. Højlund has a hell of a lot of pace. I don't know if he has the skill set to play out wide, but he certainly has the pace for it. I don't think he has the ball control like Garnacho and Rashford do, but he certainly has the pace. But I think it's more straight line, running the channels type of thing. I don't think that Højlund is necessarily the be-all, end-all for sure. That's the thing about it. I think he's had a good season, but he could improve quite a lot. And I think it'd be good to have alternative options, no doubt. It's just whether we can. So I think that's a big area of priority, that we will get somebody in that forward line for sure. I think we will. On to midfielders. Again, referring back to the point on Jorge Mendes, who obviously, there's Neves and all of that. João Neves is somebody United are interested in. They haven't made any bids, but they're definitely interested in him. But they're not going to go up and pay 85 million, pounds for him this summer. We just don't have the money there. We also need Casemiro to likely move on to have enough funds to spend here. Maybe Eriksen or McTominay as well. Eriksen more likely to leave, but McTominay certainly could as well.
Do you think Casemiro's likely to leave? Probably.
Yeah, I think he is. I mean, if there's one player, he obviously wants to, and it's pretty clear by the end of the season he was very, I don't know what the word for it would be. Very unhappy. He was very unhappy. So, yeah, angry.
Hard done.
Yeah. So there's other options, obviously. Fofana, there's been plenty of news on him, including today. He's been of interest for some time. There's, Yeomand, who I keep bringing up that I think is a target. I think that obviously there's other names. Who am I not thinking of? There's Amadou Onana from Everton, but I think the issue there is if they buy Branthwaite, there's no way you're getting him at a realistic cost. I don't think they'll bring Amrabat back. Who am I not thinking of? I know there was links to Ben Sheaf, but we haven't gotten anything else on that, so I don't know. João Gomez. João Gomez was the other one that I've heard that is a genuine interest in and would be a pretty good fit as well. He would be a good fit as well. So I think it depends, who they want to go for. I think you want a physical player. I really like still the idea of Yeomand. I think people, the more they watch him, the more they'll see that he's really good, solid player at everything. And a lot of people make comparisons to Nemanja Matic, but I think would be a perfect player for us. But he's really safe, secure in his possession, secure in his passing. He's strong. He's not the fastest player, but he's very intelligent. I think he'd be good. But we'll have to see there. And again, any deal in Portugal is going to have to go through the cartel of Jorge Mendes.
Yeah.
So that's a good link to have there. Who else? Yeah, so we'll see there. I know certainly I've had a lot less on the midfield, and I think that's because of we need Casemiro to be out, and because these other areas are more important, or not important because I think the midfield is desperately important, but we have to get a center back. Varana's gone. We have to get a forward in. Martial's gone, and we've been dry there for ages, and we have to get rid of all these other players. So, midfielder seems like they kind of need to move Casemiro on to get something major in the door there, but they have contacted a lot of people. Yeah.
Saudi interest is great as well. I think Saudi is a pretty good spot for him.
Yeah.
Play with Ronaldo.
In terms of what type of midfielder, personally, I think you want a big physical midfielder. I like João Neves. I don't know that he's the right person for it. I'd like a big physical midfielder in there to take some of the dirty work off of, Bruno and Kobbie Mainoo. I don't know what everybody else's thoughts on that. But what do you think, Ryu? I mean, what would you like to see? Like Casemiro first season, if he was that good still, maybe a little more secure in possession makes sense. But if we're gonna,
yeah, I've heard. Obviously, I haven't watched the Portuguese league, so this is. But I've heard good things about João Neves. I know he's a good profile. I know people say that he would fit really well next to Mainoo. It was a good profile to kind of equal him and do well with him. But I mean, what are the options that they're going to not want the release clause? So that's a tough one. Yeah, I kind of want to see someone big, physical that will allow Mainoo to kind of stretch the field a little bit. I think someone who's a little more defensive minded. I think they need that with a Mainoo. So we'll see. I unfortunately I could see. You're right. It's not the priority at the moment. We do need to move on Casemiro, but would we ever just buy Amrabat and just play him at his actual position? Because when we did finally play him as the 6, which, like I said, he had to beg Ten Hag to do, he looked good.
Yeah, so. I think the issue is that he doesn't have, we played in deep, and I think if we were going to be on the offensive more, then you start seeing the problems with him stretching the pitch up and down. I'd be okay with Amrabat if we had another really good top player over the top, but I don't know. I just don't think he's shown enough in. There's a lot of games he literally looked like some guy stumbled out on the pitch and was there, and we didn't see enough in the right position, but there's a lot of games he looked really, really bad, and I mean absurdly bad, not even a professional footballer bad, and that is concerning to me.
But he's playing left back,
yeah, but either way, no matter where you are, he's clumsy. The passes were, he's just. There's just weird things, He'd dive on the ground and grab the ball with his hand over and over. He did weird shit.
That was really funny. That was really funny, actually. I do remember that. That was really funny.
There was games that were just bizarre with him, and that make me wonder, and I just don't think that we should. I'd rather give those to
but why is the big clumsy guy playing a very mobile position? He should not be playing a back. That's ridiculous.
For sure, but let's let Collier get in there. Let's let one of the Fletcher brothers get in there at some point in time. This is where I think youth could come into play, rather than buying.
Well, I was going to ask about youth because I think that I mean, remember there was I think we do have some good prospects in our academy that could be good.
Yeah.
I know there was that one player that Ten Hag was talking to at the end of the FA Cup. That is supposed to be a good defensive minded.
Yeah, Collier, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe we have another minor situation where we play him a lot in preseason and he looks really good. But that's something that's gonna have to wait. The midfielders definitely, I think, gonna have to wait until the manager, because I think the manager could look at the academy players and say this is the right call. So we'll have to see. The manager, I think, midfielder will probably wait for the manager. But forward and center back, I think we could take care of probably before.
And I think that makes sense because there's certainly a bit more like complications in how you set up a midfield, even within a style that is you know, that's the engine of the team. And I think that is where you want a little bit more set up on the manager, especially because you have Bruno and Kavi Menu, two really good players in there, you know, and you want to complement them correctly in the way that you want them to play. So yeah, that's what we've got. But they're making, I mean, that's the thing where I look at it, I say, you know, the thing about it is they're making progress. They are making progress on these deals. Obviously, I'm gonna judge them on the way that they finish. I'm gonna judge them based on the outcome. It's June 11th. Let's see where they end up with the manager. Let's see where they end up with transfers. Let's see where we are by the time we get going in preseason. Let's see where we are by the time we get going in the general season. But they're moving, you know, and that's where I kind of find it funny. Again, like the stories of we don't know, you know, of the plans are going to be all messed up. They don't see it that way, and that's, you can deny those stories all you want as to not being true. Like Jamie Jackson saying that, he's a strange guy. He blocked me. You know, I don't have any loyalties to Jamie Jackson. He blocked me like a couple years last summer or something, but. You know, but that is correct. They're talking to people. They're moving on things. I can acknowledge when things are accurate, when things are correct. And that is, and the other side, it's odd. So we'll see. I'll judge them based on where we go. It's still early. Nobody in England has made signings, by the way, outside of a free agent and Chelsea doing their kind of weird things. Aston Villa are about to make a swap with Juventus, but otherwise, yeah, it was about Mason Greenwood stuff that he blocked me for, called out some stuff that I felt was misreported based on information I had, but it is what it is. You know, nobody's done all these deals, so just because they haven't happened, there's more information on deals than there are on the manager things, because obviously there's players, agents, and other clubs involved. There's a lot more people involved. There's a lot more staff involved. So you get a little bit more information on transfers, but you still have the same situation where it's very quiet compared to usual. And that's simply because United don't tell people things. I'm not saying there aren't leaks, but there's not briefing going on. There's not so much, this is what we're doing. You didn't get these big rundowns from The Athletic. This is our whole transfer window plan laid out step by step. This is who we're going for. 6 targets in each position. You know, I've built that up with context that I have based for years. We usually ignore them. And this year so far, it's looking pretty good that we're actually progressing on them. We're getting reports to match it. So hopefully we do. But yeah, so I think it's going pretty well. So, you know, in summary to all of this, yeah, Thomas Frank is somebody that has been admired by them and fits. Whether he gets the job or not, I have no idea where that stands, but he hasn't been eliminated like the rest on that short list. So I guess we'll see. He's continued to be mentioned alongside Roberto De Zerbi. I've got no new information, but the way that I understand it is that they started with their list and they're just going through the process of narrowing it down. And maybe there's people we don't know at all that are on this list. You know, there's been rumors of like Terzic from Dortmund, which I know Riddy would hate, and I know a lot of people wouldn't like. I've heard other names too, but you know, we'll see. I don't know how solid those are, but I think they're narrowing it down and then they'll finalize things. And I think seeing these names eliminated is telling us that they're nearing the end of that process as well to get things done, you know. So it is what it is. What I said about the role, what we talk about, you know, what INOES want in it, what they see in it, that's just reality of it. And that's the reason why they wouldn't be so sold on Ten Hag, because again, to see if, as Ornstein put it, to see if he can evolve, become a more modern manager to fit within the structure that they want and accept those changes. That's up to him as well in those discussions and how they feel when they talk with him. And that's, you don't know. People will say he's totally willing, but when I see stories like this come out today, I'm sitting there like, come on, how is this still happening? You know, anyway, it tells me still that he feels differently to how they feel when you see these kind of conflicts come through the media and stuff like that. And it's not, these people aren't making that stuff up. They have contacts with
No,
these people's agents and representatives, they do.
The other thing that you have to realize is that like he's not making friends right now in the club with these leaks. Like INEOS is very clearly saying, hey, we don't want to leak, and him leaking like this and being mopey is certainly not winning him any favors. And then also I think he's not won any friends in general with the new structure. He's been controversial. He's done a lot of things that have pissed off a lot of important players. So it's a tough one. We'll see what happens, but I personally just think he's probably gone for sure.
Yeah, I think, again, the simplest answer is they're lining up a replacement. If they don't, I guess here's the way I would put it, okay? If you look at it really objectively and you just look at it, you're not having the owner meet with people. If you're not planning on hiring. I mean, if you were sitting in your job and that was happening, and they were like, hi, I'm the manager of this McDonald's, and someone comes in and you see your owner, off to the side meeting with people, interviewing them for the manager job at McDonald's. It's pretty obvious. You're gonna you're gonna know what's going on, and
when you
yeah. So maybe they just want the replacement done. Again, this is all observation. All of this is just observation from the outside. But I did say for quite a long time that I figured that they would be looking at new managers and that a lot of this was going to happen. We'll see. We will see now what they decide and where they end up after all of this. They haven't sacked him yet. They're obviously still working on it, but they haven't told him anything yet per most of the reports. So we will see. That's what we've got. I think we're going to end it here. It's been a good long one.
Do you want to take it's been long. I was going to say, you want to take a couple questions?
Yeah.
Do you want to take a couple questions?
Yeah. If anybody has any more questions that we haven't asked, that we haven't answered, then I'm happy to do that.
Yeah. Well,
I get the aspect of saying it's disrespectful to the manager, but what are you supposed to do? The whole situation is weird because they've come in the middle of a season. If they had come in last summer, it would be a bit different.
I don't think they think like that. Like I think the thing is that when you have people like INEOS that come in with a very like cutthroat business minded perspective, what is respectful and disrespectful to people is not on their mind. Right. That's the thing that is true about a lot of really successful people, is that they don't care about stepping on people. They don't care about hurting their feelings. And so in this case, I don't think they really care. I just don't think they care.
And if Ten Hag is let go, he will be fine. He will be fine. He's a multi-millionaire who will get another job.
Yeah.
He will get another job.
People don't like me. It's very good.
Let's see. I think we've talked about everything else. Nothing new on Inacio and Kirkus. Obviously, the Kirkus information was confirmed by Fabrizio, right, about us liking him. So that's good. I think that's a good name. Nuri is also represented by Georgia Mendes. So I think those are two good names.
I look forward to coming back. Come back soon, by the way, to all the people saying that they don't want me back on. I look forward to being back soon.
It makes me want to bring Riddy back more. Just because.
Yeah. Anyway, what else? Let's see.
There is something. There's a story about Wan-Bissaka potentially going to Turkey. I see that. Yeah, I mean, if he wants to, they would be willing to let him go, but they obviously need to have a replacement lined up too. That's affordable as well. Can we have Riddy without James? There you go. Somebody wants Riddy without James. There you go, buddy. You got one.
Unfortunately, one person does not make a successful piece of media, but you know where to find me. What would it take to be unblocked on Twitter by both you? I don't think I have anyone blocked. I don't really block people on Twitter. I block ads and annoying accounts, but I don't block people being mean to me. What do I care?
Macmillan, INEOS trying to work around the $9 million payout to Erik ten Hag. Now, here's the other issue, okay? Here's the other issue. The finances are tight. If they did want to pay Ten Hag out, and if they needed to hire somebody who is in a job and pay money for compensation, genuinely, they might not be able to do it till July 1st. I mean, that's just a reality. The profit and sustainability up to July 1 is really, really tight. and they may have some money earmarked for like a Branthwaite if they can get it done, but those extra few millions can make a difference, and that we don't know if that's a factor or not. There's been some reports that the money is a factor. I don't think it's going to change their decision, but it could change the timing of things for sure. That is a possibility. Yeah, so I guess we will see, but I don't think they're trying to get around something like that, but I think it may factor into the way things happen if they're making a change for sure. I mean, if you have to pay 8 million to him and you got to pay 4 million for Frank, or you got to pay 6 million for Zirkzee, or for example, I don't know if they can do that until July 1st. I don't know if they can. I actually have no idea.
Could they bring someone in and have him start working while still having him employed? I don't really see why
If he's
not.
on gardening leave or something like that, sure, yeah. I mean, they could put him on gardening leave for a few weeks or something. I don't know exactly how it all works, though.
That's how that works.
Yeah, I mean, they could put him on gardening leave instead of sacking him, right? Like everybody does these days, right? And then you just keep paying his salary instead of paying 9 million at once. I don't. You could do that. I've not heard why one couldn't do that. You could just pay out his contract on gardening leave through next year.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird. I guess the official sacking would happen on July 1st. So we'll see.
I don't know. That's just totally speculating.
I don't think that we have any. I don't think there was any more news on the arbitration. Nothing's really come out.
No, it was supposed to start in May, but it didn't.
I don't really understand.
So something.
They're probably still trying to settle. No one actually wants to go. I'll buy a new mic. No one actually wants to go into an actual arbitration because anything can happen. They're most likely to settle a little bit.
Yep. All right, let's end it here. I think we've answered everything. I appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate that. I do. And thank you all for the questions. Thank you all for watching. Again, we'll see what happens. It's just all of this, there's certain things that I say in terms of INOES' mindset, but the rest of it, it's just observation of what's going on and looking at it. So thank you all. Appreciate it very much. We will see you all later. I will have a podcast with Phil this week, either tomorrow or Thursday. We'll be recording and then have some more videos and things like that as well. So thank you all very much.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your days. Hopefully we will find out more. I'm quite hopeful we might find out something pretty soon, but we'll see. Okay.
Yeah, and I hopefully will be in a couple of weeks. I'm off on vacation on Thursday, and then hopefully I'll be back. So you guys can keep bullying me.
Sounds good. All right. See y'all later.
All right, later.